A for blowing up when my sister's kids crashed Thanksgiving and destroyed my TV? I am Emily. I am 31 years old. I work as a project coordinator for a large logistics company. It is not the most exciting life in the world, but I get paid well, and since I am organized with my money, 3 years ago I was able to buy my own house. It is not a mansion or anything like that. It is a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. The best part is that it is mine. I took care of it, I dreamed of it, I earned it. My family is small, just my parents, who are already retired, and my older sister, Jessica. Jessica is 34 and has 3 kids. The oldest is Ethan, who is 10. Then comes Liam, who is 7, and the youngest is Caleb, who just turned 5. Jessica got divorced last year. The truth is, it did not surprise anyone that much. They have been fighting over everything for years. The good thing, if you can even call it that, is that her ex pays child support and that helps her get by. She works part-time managing social media accounts for a small marketing agency. We have always been a close family. My parents support her when things get complicated, and I do too. In fact, since she got divorced, I have been paying her rent. It is $900 a month. It is not a small amount, but I can afford it, and at the time it seemed like the right thing to do. Family is family, I kept telling myself. The problem is that Jessica has very specific ideas about how to raise children. She is heavily into a philosophy of free-range parenting, without rules, without boundaries, without the word no. She says that this way they grow up creative and independent. In theory it sounds nice. In real life, her 3 kids do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. Several times I had to watch them when Jessica had errands, appointments, or meetings. And every time it was the same story. She would arrive, drop a "thank you, you're a lifesaver," and disappear for hours, and I was left with the hurricane inside my house. Ethan would grab the remote and put on cartoons at full volume, as if he were in his own living room. Liam would open my fridge without asking and take out whatever he was craving. And Caleb, if he did not like something, would scream. He screamed as if the world owed him something. The first time I thought, well, they're little. The second time, maybe they're just wound up today. By the 5th time it was obvious that it was not a bad day. It was their way of living. Every time I tried to set the smallest boundary, they looked at me as if I were speaking another language. Ethan had a favorite phrase, "You're not the boss of me." If I suggested they ask for permission before taking food or not climb on the couch with their shoes on, they ignored me. Or worse, they told me they were going to tell their mom that I was being mean. The final straw came on the day that, without knowing it, would be the last time I agreed to babysit them. Jessica left them at my house around noon. She said she had a few things to do and would be back around 5. I already knew that without traffic that kind of trip was quick, but in the afternoon everything gets complicated and she always took longer than she said. As soon as she closed the door, the usual started. Ethan took over the television. Liam was already making a mess in the kitchen and Caleb was whining because he was bored. At one point, Liam saw a piece of pottery I had bought on a trip to Santa Fe. It was not extremely expensive, but I loved it. It was one of those objects that brightens your day when you walk into your living room. I had it on the coffee table. Liam grabbed a small bouncy ball and started throwing it in the living room. I told him that was for outside, to go out to the backyard. I said it normally without yelling. Liam looked at me and smiled as if I were suggesting a game and started throwing it higher, higher, closer and closer to the table. Caleb got excited and grabbed a throw pillow to toss it too. Ethan, instead of helping, laughed and turned up the volume on the television. In less than a minute, all 3 were throwing things at each other in my living room. I asked them to stop, I called their names one by one, I asked them to listen to me. Nothing until it happened. Liam threw the ball to Caleb. Caleb did not catch it. The ball bounced on the coffee table, hit the vase, and the pottery fell straight to the floor. It shattered into countless fragments scattered over the hardwood floor. The 3 of them stood there staring at the mess, and Ethan shrugged and said, "Oops." That is when my patience ran out. I walked over, grabbed the television remote, turned off the screen and pointed to the couch. "All 3 of you sit down right now." They listened to me for the first time, maybe because I had never spoken to them like that. Liam frowned. "What are you doing?" "I am setting rules in my house," I told him. "You just broke something of mine after I told you to stop." Here, when someone breaks something, they sit down and stay still. Caleb tried to get up. I pointed at him again. Sit down. He sat down. No television, no running, no throwing things around. You are staying here until your mom gets here, and you are going to think about what you did. It was not pretty, it was not sweet, it was necessary. And they stayed on that couch for almost 3 hours. I swept up the pieces, cleaned, carefully watching my hands so I would not cut myself, and inside I felt a mix of anger and exhaustion that weighed heavily on my chest. They did not say anything. They just looked around uncomfortably. It was the quietest my house had been since they arrived. At 5, Jessica finally returned. As soon as she walked in, the 3 of them swarmed her, all talking at the same time. She put us in timeout, Liam said in a complaining voice. She didn't let us watch TV, Ethan added. She got really mad, Caleb finished, almost crying. Jessica's face turned red. She looked at me as if I had done something horrible. How dare you treat my kids like this? She snapped at me. You have no right to punish them. They're kids, Emily. I pointed to the trash can where the remains of the pottery were. They broke my vase. I told them not to throw things in the living room and they ignored me. Jessica did not even step closer to take a good look. It was an accident. You're exaggerating over a vase. That tone, that contempt burned me. Exaggerating, I said, feeling my voice rising. Jessica, they trashed my living room while you were gone. I spoke nicely to them, I asked them, they ignored me. You should have let them be, she answered. That is how they grow up free. Otherwise, people grow up repressed. She said that word, repressed, as if I were a villain. I had been putting up with it for months, I had been cleaning up after them for months, I had been offering my house as someone else's playground for months, and now for asking for respect I was the bad guy. I stayed quiet for a second and then said with no softness left, perfect. If this is being mean to you, then don't count on me anymore. Find someone else to watch your kids. In my house, things are respected, and I'm not going to be here for them to come in, break things, and then have you minimize it. Jessica tightened her mouth, roughly yanked the jackets onto the kids, muttering things like, so dramatic, so annoying, such bad vibes. She did not say goodbye, slammed the door shut, and left. After that, I thought I was finally going to get my peace of mind back. For 2 weeks I did. I would get home from work and my house was exactly as I had left it. I could sit down, put on a movie and not hear screaming. It was a real break until Saturday rolled around and I remembered the dinner at my parents' house. My parents always hosted dinner on Saturdays. It was a lifelong tradition. They live relatively close, about a 30 or 40-minute drive without traffic, but during rush hour it is another story. Even so, I almost always went. And suddenly those dinners had become a copy of what I experienced at my house, except now it was their turn. The kids would arrive and take over the dining room. They listened to no one. They threw food, spilled water, yelled at each other, ran around the table, and if my parents said anything to them, they ignored them. Jessica would sit with her cell phone as if everything were normal. She typed, smiled, and did not even look up. If I said to her, "Hey, tell them something already," she would snap without lifting her gaze. "It is not your business." My parents just shrugged as if they did not know what to do, as if they had already given up. And at the end of the night, Jessica would leave with the kids and leave behind a battlefield. Food on the floor, sticky spots on the table, sometimes even a broken plate, and my parents looked at me with a help us face without saying it. I stayed behind to clean up once again, as if it were part of the package. It happened almost every Saturday, and I saw my parents looking more tired, more drained each time. That made me desperate, but I did not know how to stop it. Until late November. And with that came Thanksgiving, which my parents always hosted. The thought of spending an entire day with that chaos turned my stomach. That is when a light bulb went off in my head. What if this year I did not go to my parents' dinner, and instead hosted something at my house? First I called my mom. "Hey Mom, I am not coming to your Thanksgiving this year," I told her. There was silence. "What do you mean you're not coming?" she asked, confused. "It is the family dinner, you know." "Yes, but I want to do something at my house, something quieter." My mom sighed. I know her. When she sighs like that, it is because she already understands. "Emily," she said carefully, Does this have to do with Jessica and the kids? There was no point in lying to her. Yes, a little bit. I just want a peaceful gathering for once. My mom took a moment to answer. Then she said, I understand, honey. To be honest, I understand. With that, I started inviting the extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the ones who usually went to my parents' house. I told them I was going to host something small, nice, and quiet at my house. And I set one clear condition. Adults only, no one under 15. I told my Aunt Susan directly, I want it to be an adult gathering so we can chat comfortably. My Uncle Dave laughed when he heard the rule. It's about time, he said. I adore kids, but it's also nice to enjoy dinner and be able to finish a sentence. My Aunt Nancy almost applauded me. Thank you, she said. My head was already hurting just thinking about another gathering with all that screaming. I love them, but it gets tiring too. In a few days, I already had 8 people confirmed. Everyone was excited and so was I. I felt like I was finally going to have a Thanksgiving just the way I imagined it, without tension in my neck, without constantly keeping an eye on every corner. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I was at home planning the menu when I got a message from Jessica. It was the first time she had texted me since our fight. I heard you are not going to Mom and Dad's tomorrow. Why are you celebrating separately? I stared at the message for a while. I hesitated. I thought about softening it, about making something up, but I was already tired of covering things up. I answered her with the truth. I am hosting a get-together at my house, adults only. I want to be relaxed, without any drama over the kids' behavior. After that, the little typing dots appeared and disappeared many times. Several minutes passed. In the end she wrote to me, How awful. So you don't want to see your nephews? I replied quickly. It is not personal. I just want a peaceful get-together. Lately everything turns into chaos and nobody does anything. She read the message. I saw it and she did not reply. I was expecting my phone to blow up with voice notes, with complaints, with whatever, but no. She stayed quiet. That confirmed to me that she understood perfectly. The next day, on Thanksgiving Day, I woke up with an excitement I had not felt in years. I sent a message to the family group chat wishing everyone a happy Thanksgiving. My parents answered affectionately. Jessica did not even look at it. I started cooking and tidying up. I made a roast chicken, stuffing, and green bean casserole. I took out my nice dinnerware, the kind I hardly ever use. I set out candles. I made a simple arrangement for the center of the table. Nothing exaggerated, just to make it look pretty. I tidied the living room. I left everything impeccable. I felt proud. My house looked exactly how I wanted. My guests started arriving around 2 in the afternoon so we could have plenty of time to eat calmly. My Uncle Dave brought wine. My Aunt Susan brought her famous sweet potato casserole. My cousin Brian arrived with flowers and told me, You really outdid yourself with the house. We sat down, we started chatting about work, trips, normal things, those conversations that get cut off when there is screaming running around. I was finally experiencing an adult Thanksgiving, a real gathering. When I had the main dish ready and was about to serve, the doorbell rang. I thought it was strange. All my guests were already there. I thought maybe it was a delivery or a neighbor. I opened the door and my blood ran cold. There was Jessica with the 3 kids smiling as if they had just done something brilliant. Surprise! The kids shouted. And before I could react, they barged in. I just stood there watching my gathering turn into a disaster in a matter of seconds. Jessica walked straight to the dining room as if it were her house. She sat in my spot at the head of the table where I had been hosting everyone. Hello everyone, she said as if nothing were wrong. Sorry we're late. My relatives were frozen. No one knew what to say. Ethan, Liam, and Caleb went straight to the food table. They grabbed rolls, they grabbed food with their hands, no plates, no napkins. They went to sit on the living room floor to eat in front of the television. Liam found the remote and turned the volume up to the max. A cartoon started playing with that shrill noise that drills into your head. The conversation died. I saw my Aunt Susan's face. She was smiling but with a clenched jaw, that I'm holding it together smile. My Uncle Dave looked at me as if waiting for me to do something. My cousin Brian leaned toward his mom, who was already uncomfortable, and said, Mom, we better go. You're going to get a headache. Jessica heard him and said cheerfully from the dining room, Don't leave because of us, the kids are just excited. I approached her, unable to believe what was happening. Jessica, I said quietly, I told you it was adults only. She shrugged as if the rule applied to everyone else. I thought you meant it for other people, she answered. They're your nephews. You weren't going to close the door on them. Heat rushed to my face. My Aunt Nancy was already grabbing her purse. She came up to me and whispered, I'm sorry, honey, but I can't handle the noise. And she left. And when she left, others started moving too. People make excuses, but the truth shows on their faces. I felt embarrassment, anger, and a sadness that tightened my throat because I had carefully planned everything so it would turn out well. I walked over to Jessica, grabbed her by the arm and lifted her from her chair. Kitchen. Right now, I told her quietly but firmly. I pulled her into the kitchen and closed the door. What are you doing here? I asked, holding back my voice so I would not yell. I told you it was adults only. Jessica put on an innocent face, one of those faces that makes you feel like you are being messed with. The kids wanted to see you, she told me. And Mom told me you were having a dinner. I thought it would be nice. Mom didn't invite you, I told her. And even if she had, I was clear about the rule. From the living room a loud thud was heard, then a scream. We both ran out. My television, the one I had bought just a few weeks ago, a large screen that had cost me months of savings, had a huge crack from top to bottom, a black line crossing everything. It was destroyed. The remote was on the floor. The three kids were on the couch, quiet, looking like they finally understood they had crossed the line, but no one said a word. The air left my lungs. Who did this? I asked. Silence. My Uncle Dave, who had just gotten up for water and was near the dining room, cleared his throat and said quietly as if he felt embarrassed, It was Liam. Ethan changed the channel and Liam didn't like it. He grabbed the remote and threw it. My hands shook. I walked over to Jessica and said with a voice cracking with anger, Your son just broke my television. You're going to pay me for it. It cost me $1,800. Jessica turned to look at the broken screen. Then she looked at me and laughed. Seriously, she said, it was an accident. They're kids. Sometimes they break things, it's not a big deal. That was the end of it all. Out, I told her. Jessica opened her eyes wide as if she did not believe I was serious. Emily, don't exaggerate. Out, I repeated louder. Grab your kids and get out of my house. She finally understood I was not playing around. She started gathering jackets, muttering things like, so dramatic, so annoying, such bad vibes. The kids complained about having to leave, but for once Jessica did not negotiate. She pulled them and took them away. Before walking out, she yelled at me from the door. That's why nobody loves you. You're selfish. You hate kids. And she slammed the door. A strange silence fell, an uncomfortable silence, the kind that is only broken by coughs and footsteps. My Uncle Dave let out an exhale and said, Well, at least it was intense. One by one, my guests started leaving with soft excuses, with looks of pity, with discomfort. In less than an hour, my perfect Thanksgiving was over. I was left alone in my living room with spilled food, a broken television, and a knot in my heart. I spent that afternoon cleaning, and the more I cleaned, the angrier I felt. $1,800. On a device I had owned for less than 2 months. The next day, I went to my parents' house. When I walked into the kitchen, I saw them quiet and I knew they already knew. Jessica told us about the television, my mom said in a low voice. Did she also tell you that Liam threw the remote on purpose? I asked. And that she laughed when I asked her to take responsibility? My parents looked at each other with that couple's look that understands everything without speaking. She said it was an accident, my dad said. It wasn't an accident, I replied. And even if it had been, you pay for it. You take responsibility. My mom shook her head as if wanting me to lower my voice. Emily, she told me, you know Jessica doesn't have that kind of money just lying around. Let it go. I froze. Let it go, I repeated. Mom, it's $1,800. My mom looked at me with those don't start a war eyes. I know it's a lot, but family is more important than things. I left my parents' house feeling alone, as if I were the only one seeing the obvious. When we were little girls, my parents would not have allowed us to do even half of those things. But with Jessica now everything was an excuse, everything was poor thing. Everything was don't pressure her. That night I sat in my living room in front of my broken television and made a decision. If no one was going to hold her accountable, I was going to. I decided that this Christmas and the next one, I was not going to give gifts to Jessica or the kids. I used to spend a few $100s on each of them, and in the end, between all of them over 2 Christmases, it added up to about the same amount the television cost me. It was not about punishing just to punish, it was about there being consequences. I did not tell anyone, I did not announce it, I did not make drama, I just bought myself another television because I also needed my house in working order, and I went on with my life. The weeks before Christmas were quiet. I bought a nice watch for my dad. For my mom, I bought a set of earrings and a necklace that I had seen her admire. My plan was to drop by quickly on Christmas Eve, give them their gifts, say hello, and head back before the night turned into a circus. December 24th arrived. I went to my parents' house around 6 in the evening with my presents nicely wrapped. I left with plenty of time because at that hour traffic starts getting busy, and I did not want to rush. My mom opened the door wearing her apron. It smelled like cooking, like cinnamon, like something freshly baked. She had her hair tied up and a tired face from spending all day preparing things. "Emily, how great that you came," she said and hugged me. "Come in." I walked in and immediately heard the same old thing. Yelling, running footsteps, something hitting a piece of furniture. Jessica and the kids were already there. "I'm only staying for a little while," I told my mom as we walked toward the kitchen. "I brought you your gifts and I'm heading back." In the living room, Jessica was sitting once again with her cell phone as if the world did not exist. Ethan was pulling ornaments off the tree. Liam was jumping on the couch. Caleb was crying over something nobody understood. Nothing had changed. I gave my parents their gifts. My dad smiled. My mom got emotional and I was already set to leave. But at that moment the 3 kids ran into the kitchen. "Aunt Emily!" Ethan yelled. "What about our gifts?" "Yeah, where are they?" Liam said in that demanding tone. Caleb just held out his hands as if I had to pull bags out of nowhere. My parents also turned to look at me with that, "Of course you brought them, look." I took a deep breath and spoke loudly, enough for Jessica to hear from the living room. "This year and next year I'm not giving you presents. I am going to use that money to make up for the television you broke at my Thanksgiving get-together." The reaction was immediate. All 3 of them started crying at the same time. Caleb threw himself on the floor and threw a tantrum, the kind that pierces your ears, kicking and screaming. Liam ran off to find Jessica. Ethan stood there with his mouth open as if he could not understand an adult telling him no. "Mom!" Liam shrieked from the living room. "She says there are no presents." Jessica appeared in the kitchen absolutely furious. Her face was red, her eyes burning. "You are resentful," she yelled at me. "You are cruel. They're kids." I looked at her without moving. "They are kids who destroyed my property," I told her. "And their mom refused to take responsibility." "You laughed, Jessica." Jessica raised her voice even more. "Are you punishing innocent kids over a television? What kind of person does that? You're the worst sister." I stayed calm. Not because I did not feel anything, but because I had already broken inside in silence. "The only one failing here is you," I said. "You don't set boundaries for them, you don't teach them to be respectful, and when they do damage, you minimize it. That's why today there will indeed be consequences." Jessica turned to look at my parents. "Are you going to let her talk to me like this?" My parents stood there uncomfortably, they looked at the floor, they looked away, and they did not defend her. I saw something in that scene that surprised me. It was not support for me through words, but it was exhaustion, it was fatigue. It was as if they finally had no desire to cover up everything for her anymore. Jessica tightened her mouth. "Fine," she spat. "We are leaving, and don't expect to see us again." She grabbed the kids who were still crying and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that my mom's Christmas wreath fell off the hook. My mom put a hand to her chest, more from the scare than anything else. I said goodbye to them in silence, hugged them and left. I spent that Christmas Eve alone at my house. I ordered food through an app, something simple. I put on an old movie, and for the first time in years, My house was at peace on a holiday that usually left me exhausted. 2 days later, I was scrolling through Facebook and saw a post from Jessica that made my anger spike instantly. It was a photo of the 3 kids crying and a very long text saying that I was cruel, that I was vindictive, that I was a heartless person for denying gifts to innocent kids. She ended by saying that she no longer considered me her sister. Her friends commented horrible things and Jessica was liking all of them. I started typing a post to tell the whole story. The ruined Thanksgiving, the broken television, Jessica's laughter, everything. But I stopped. The people who mattered already knew. My relatives were there or found out through my parents. I was not going to fight with strangers who were only seeing Jessica's tearful version. Instead, I sent her a private message. If you no longer consider me your sister, then I will stop paying your rent. I am not going to transfer $900 a month to someone who says I am not family. She read it almost immediately, and my cell phone started ringing. Jessica called me once, then again, one after another. I did not answer. Then the messages came. Emily, don't do this. I'm sorry my anger got the best of me. The kids need a place to live. Please. About an hour later, out of curiosity, I checked her Facebook. The post had disappeared, deleted. That night she sent me one last message. Please don't leave me without rent. I cannot do it alone. I did not answer. Going into the new year, I kept paying the rent, not because Jessica deserved it, but because my nephews were not to blame for their mom's mistakes. But I cut off everything else. 0 calls, 0 favors, 0 visits. I started seeing my parents during the week, when I knew Jessica and the kids were not going to be there. Quick dinners, calm chats, no screaming in the background. Last week my mom told me something that left me thinking. You know what? She said to me while pouring coffee. Jessica has been working with the kids. Last Saturday they sat down to dinner without getting up, without throwing food, and Jessica made them clean up their own mess. My dad nodded. It's no joke. They seem like different kids. My mom looked at me carefully as if weighing every word. Maybe your boundaries hit her like a bucket of cold water. Maybe she finally understood. Then she asked me if I wanted to fix things with Jessica, if I wanted to see the kids more often. I did not answer immediately because one quiet dinner does not erase months of chaos. It does not erase a shattered vase. It does not erase a destroyed television. It does not erase Jessica's laughter when I was shaking with anger. I'm not ready yet. I want to see a real change, one that lasts, one that is not just because it's convenient for her. Until then, my door remains closed, and for the first time in a long time, my house feels like my home. Comment. Setting boundaries with the people we love is often the hardest thing we will ever have to do. We are taught that family means unconditional acceptance, but true love also requires mutual respect and responsibility. Protecting your peace does not make you a bad person. Sometimes stepping away is the only way to show others that your kindness is a gift, not a right. Holding people accountable is actually a profound act of care because it gives them the chance to grow and do better. You have the right to create a safe space for yourself where your voice is heard and your feelings are valued. Healing starts the moment you decide to stop accepting behavior that constantly drains your spirit. I hope this reminds you to stand firm in your worth and choose the quiet comfort of a peaceful life over unnecessary chaos. Please share your thoughts below on how you handle tough boundaries in your relationships. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.